Okay, sketching trigonometric functions. So we need to look at the actual equations that we're given and kind of work out some information before we start sketching things out. First bit we've got is this little bit over here. This states our domain. Now, basically the way you interpret this is that the 0 has to go down here and the 2 pi is going to go at the end of your graph. That just gives you those two endpoints for your domain. Because you've got 0 there, 2 pi there, that must be pi, that must be pi on 2, that must be 3 pi on 2, remembering that these go with the 90 degrees and the 180 degrees, 270 degrees and 360 degrees. Now eventually you'll get used to the idea of actually thinking in terms of the radians, but you can keep on referring back to degrees if you think that's going to be easier. Now, the information that we've actually got here, basically what this is saying is y is equal to 2 times cosine of x. And so every answer we get is going to actually get multiplied by 2. Now, because cosine x itself only varies between -1 and +1, then 2 cosine x is going to vary between -2 and +2. So this one is just going to vary between the -1 and the +1. So we know that that's going to be the limits of our vertical scale. So if we put the 2 up here and the -2 down here, that means -1 goes there and 1 goes there. So that sets up our graph so we can actually start drawing things. So now what happens is with that one, because there is a 1 in front of there, that means there is going to be one full cycle of cosine, which that's a full cycle of cosine. There's going to be one full cycle of cosine between the 0 and the 360. Okay, it starts at 2. We know it's going to drop through at 90. It's going to bottom out at 180. It's going to cut back through at 270, and it'll end up at the 360. So that one's relatively easy to draw. Now we can fit in our other marks, so we know that it's going to go through with cosine 60 degrees is our nice easy half mark. So we go along to up to the halfway mark, past the 90 go another one, and then we go along 2 to the other one, skip 1, and along 2, and then we can draw that curve in. Okay, and we label it. That is 2 cosine x. Okay, I'll use a different colour for the other one. Now, this one, cosine 2x, that means, now it's only going 1, so it's only going between these two marks. Cosine 2x means it's going to do 2 full cycles. So it's going to start, go down, go up, go down, go back up again, and finish. Okay. So that means we're going to finish back up here. We know we're going to start there and we're going to finish up there. It's got to end up at the bottom halfway through. Sorry, I put those in the wrong spot, didn't I? On there. Okay, so we're starting there. We're ending up back there, ending there. It's going to drop down to the bottom at this point and at this point, and we can go with our, we know it's going to crop through there, we know it's going to cut through there, because these correspond with the halfway points between these. So it's going to cut through there, it's going to cut through there, and if we can estimate thirds, which is actually not as hard as it sounds, because you've got a half and a half and a half, so that would be our 60 point, that would be our 60 point, 60, 60, that one, that one, that one, and that one. And then we can draw a curve through. And we label the curve. Y is equal to, oops, 2 cosine 2x. For the next part of the question, so you can just see faintly the curves already drawn through here. When you're actually trying to add two functions together, it's easier to actually spot numbers that you think are going to be easy to add. So for example, because we're doing cosine 2x plus 2x, then we can say, okay, well, what would it be at 0? So at 0, we've got cosine 2x is 1, and 2 cosine x is 2. So when we add those two bits together, we're going to have a mark at 3. So that's where it's going to start. We know that at 45 degrees, or pi of 4, we know that this one is going to be 0. So when we add that result to this one, it's not actually going to change. So we know that there must be a mark going through there. Likewise with this one, we've got a 0 here, so when we add it to this one, it's not going to change, so we can put a mark there. Whereas another 0, there's another 0, so we know we're going to have a mark there. And then we've got a positive 1 and a minus 2, so 2 take away 1, or sorry, 1 take away 2 is there. And then we've got there's another 0, so that's going to be at that spot. We've got another 0 there, so that's going to be at that spot. We've got another 0 there, so that's going to be at that spot, and we've got the 1 and the 2 up here, so that's going to go to that spot. And then what we can do is we can sketch them in. Now, it's important to stress that this is actually a sketch, so we don't know, because we haven't actually done any analysis, is there something more tricky going on inside this bit? Now, at this stage, you don't know that. You don't have any information to actually work out whether anything else is happening. These bits here, adding those two together, it looks like they should actually end up being roughly there. And I don't think there's any more you can do from that. But that's basically the trick. Look for sections which are easy to add together. So sections where you've got nice whole numbers, they're easy to add. Sections where you've got a 0, well, you're only crossing through the other line. Sections where there's 0, crossing through the other line, so on and so on and so on. Above and below the line, so you're going, okay, so if I've got 1 up and 2 down, so I'll go 1 up and 2 down, so on and so on. That's the trick.